Okay, now we're gonna explain to you the difference between three of the main breed of durian here in Malaysia. This is the very famous Ochee, which is with Ochee, or you call it Blackthorn. It's one of the latest breed that we have here in Malaysia, registered since 2012, and it is actually like one of the most well-demanded breed right now. In terms of these three durian, Blackthorn is actually the most expensive durian you can find. Now if you look at D24 over here, D24 used to be very big. This one is the D24, but now amongst these three durian, D24 is actually the cheapest one here. And this is actually our all-time classic famous Musang King. So at this point of filming, know that durian price fluctuate a lot, but at this point of filming to consumer, like Musang King is at 38 ringgit. So if you divide that by 4, about 5 USD plus. And then this is D24 is actually only at 20 ringgit, about 4 USD. And if you look at here, Ochee Blackthorn is actually at 70 ringgit. Like, you know, like almost 17 or 18 USD. So now let's run through the difference between three of these durian. Hey, I also just want to hop in and say that the price of durian is gonna fluctuate a lot according to, you know, like how the market is. If you want to know a little bit more about how the durian pricing works, what to expect from the market, feel free to check out the link in our description where we talk about the economics of durian. Now, the first way to actually identify the durian and differentiate them very quickly is actually the thorn. Take a look, let's take a look at this thorn here at the Musang King. You can see that it is very pyramid, it's very angular shape. You can see it's almost like there's one side, two side, three side. Like it's a pyramid that you can see that there are sides inside. But if you compare it over with a D24, you can see how it's actually just like one spike. There's not a lot of side of it that has very, like, it's not angular at all. It's just a round cylinder spike. But if you compare it over here with the Blackthorn, now Blackthorn, when it grown a bit larger, right, you will also see it to be more pyramid as well as angular. But one of the difference, if you want to differentiate between a Musang King and a Blackthorn, is you can actually touch it. Like Blackthorn is gonna be a lot sharper, you know, like the name Blackthorn, right? So it's actually going to be a lot sharper, while for Musang King is a little bit more blunt. Now that is just how you tell from the surface lah. And the other piece that you will actually use to differentiate is actually their butt, the bottom of the durian. Take a look at this one over here, Musang King. Musang King, you can see there's a very obvious star shape here at the bottom. And then if you look at a D24, it's actually like people normally we call it like a 5 cent at the bottom. You can see it's a little bit more concave up, and the starfish shape, if you compare these two, the starfish is actually not as obvious as compared to the Musang King. Now, when it comes to a Blackthorn, right? Blackthorn also has a slightly more obvious starfish shape. And if you're wondering, this thing here, every single durian will have this. This is like their tail. So don't use this as a differentiator. This particular little thorn here is not a good differentiator. However, and the star is something that is more common. Also, it's very similar to Musang King that there will be a star over here. But know that the star is not an absolute. Some durian has it more obvious, some durian normally don't. So we'll talk to you about a few other ways to differentiating them later. And another just side tips for you to know whether a durian is fresh or not is you can look at the stem over here. If you touch it and it's relatively wet, it just means that it's cut off very quickly from the tree. So it cut off not long ago, and you can see this one is very wet. This one is a bit drier, so this one probably plays a little bit longer than this. And this one is also pretty wet. So you will know that these durians are pretty fresh. When they are dry, it means they are probably not as fresh, has been here for a while. Okay, as you can see, we have opened up all three of these durians. So this is D24, this is Musang King, and this is Blackthorn. So, but if you're talking about the core difference, you can spot it through the color as well as the taste. Like the color of a Musang King, you can see is a lot of a darker yellow color. D24 is gonna be a brighter yellow, while this particular Blackthorn is going to be a more orange color. And at last, we also talked about the taste. Blackthorn is going to be a lot sweeter and creamer. And also here at the Musang King is also a little bit more of a creamer taste, While D24, the fragrance wouldn't be as strong. It's just a very fresh type of a taste. So that is why nowadays Musang King and Black Thorn, because of their stronger fragrance, is just gonna have a higher price compared to most. Now in terms of the moisture, it actually varies from durian to durian. Like you can get a very soft moisture here. This one is a little bit more moist. Depends on preference lah. So this is a little bit more moist of a durian. This is slightly less moist. You can see if I press on it, you know, it doesn't go away that far compared to this one. It just kind of wraps away. This is the texture that most people prefer. It just tastes a little bit more fresher. Or for this type where it's really moist, some people like it, some people don't. But if it's a lot more moist, it's gonna be having a lot of the heavier, creamier taste, and also that bitterness and sweet taste is gonna be a lot more stronger. Now there's one more piece when it comes to the moisture of the durian, like you know how soft it is, right? It's also on whether the durian has actually fallen and knocked onto the ground. Like the durians with a higher quality for like you know Musang King as well as Black Thorn, people actually don't want them to knock onto the ground first. You know, like because after it's knocked, it's a little bit more moisture, and you can tell the difference there. But you know, you look at this durian over here. You can see the bottom here. Some of these thorn are actually very, you know, like you can see how they are kind of damaged because it actually knocked onto the ground. And the effect of that also is, it opened up a little bit more, so you can expect this durian to be a lot more watery. And you can see over here for this durian here, this Musang King, this is the side of the thorn where it's really fine. And you can see that generally this is also not open, so it will be slightly less moist. And normally when people want to eat it, right, they will actually just knock it a little bit after that to give it a little bit more of a creamy and watery gesture. And what I'm sharing with you here, yeah, it applies primarily to just the Musang King over here and the Black Thorn. And when you're talking the D24 is actually a lot thicker, and because the thorn, you know, like they are very close together. No matter what, even if you knock it, if it came out dry, it's gonna be dry. If it came out wet, it's just gonna stay wet. Just because of D24, the husk is a lot more thicker. So now you can follow Tiny a bit. He will show you how he normally knock the durian. Come here. Take your son.
So you gently knock around like this. Knock around. And then you just a little bit higher, a little bit like feel like 1 feet away from the ground.
Yeah.
And then you just drop it like this. You're holding this, and you just let it drop. And then wait for half an hour or even 10 minutes. Then you can taste the durian itself. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I'm just gonna hop on here and share with you that if you're buying a durian from a city, the previous tip may not apply to you as much, because most of the time if you're buying from a city, those transporters who transport the durian will have thrown the durian a few times and it will have knocked to multiple surfaces quite a few times. So that applies a little bit more to durian that you just got from an orchard, or if you just like a slightly more watery durian. And now you shall watch me eat. So good. Can fly to heaven already. 上天堂咗。Hungry or not? Good, right? Okay lah.